All right. Thank you guys all for confirming the audio visual. Always good when everything works right away. All right. So I do want to get started on time today because we have a lot of good information to cover. So I'll get started with my portion first. Want to welcome you all to our expert talk today. We are going to be talking about 5 signs it's time to start an agency on Upwork and 3 reasons not to. So my name is Dana Rowley. I'll be your host for today. I am the San Diego ambassador for Upwork, and that's where I'm broadcasting from today on an oddly rainy day in San Diego. A little bit more about me. I'm actually a freelancer like all of you. I've been a full-time freelancer for the past 7 years. I focus on marketing, specifically on brand strategy for growing businesses. And a few hours a month, I work for Upwork, coordinating events like these, helping freelancers to further their career on Upwork and beyond. So thank you very much for joining me today. Next, let's talk about what we're going to cover today. So here is our agenda. To get started, I have a few updates on new features and changes on Upwork that I want to talk about with you. And then we'll get to our guest speaker, Julie Ewald, who is the Chief Everything Officer of Impressa Solutions, which is an Upwork agency. So she's a great person to be talking about this topic today. And then at the end of our hour, we'll make sure that we save some time for Q&A and discussion. There's quite a few of you joining us today, so you all are on mute, but you can communicate with myself and Julie through the question box. So if you're thinking of questions, you can go ahead and pop them in there, and then we will also use that same section for our Q&A at the end. Also today, this webinar is being recorded. So should you miss any of the good content, or if your connection drops or something like that, do know that you can go back and review this webinar. It will be on the events and webinars page in the community. The Upwork community is where you'll be able to find this. It often takes a few hours for everything to process before it's posted, but by tomorrow, the recording of this event should be available for you. All right, so here's a few updates on what's new around Upwork. There's been quite a few updates and changes this year, so there's a few features that I want to bring to your attention. So to start, I want to talk about talent badges on Upwork. So if you've been on Upwork for a while, you're probably familiar with the Rising Talent and Top Rated badges, but this year, Upwork added 2 more badges, the Top Rated Plus and the Expert Vetted. So why did Upwork do this? They are constantly on a mission to try to better match freelancers and clients, and to make those matches happen easier and quicker. So adding these badges was one of the ways that they are trying to enable this. So here's a little bit more about what these badges mean and what the journey through these badges is on Upwork. So when you first get started and you're out there applying for projects, doing good work, you earn this first Rising Talent badge. After you do enough work, that Rising Talent badge is actually replaced by your job success score. So if you have recently lost your Rising Talent badge in favor of a job success score, just know that's a good thing. That's the next step in your freelance journey on Upwork. After your job success score, if your job success score is good enough, if it stays above 90%, and you work a certain number of projects and earn a certain amount of income, you can get this next top rated badge. Now that used to be where the badges stopped, but recently there's now another level you can earn in top rated, which is top rated plus. So this top rated plus badge has more of a focus on long-term projects and higher earnings. So it's just an upper echelon of top rated. And you'll need to have earned at least $10,000 in the last 12 months in order to get this top rated plus badge. Now, all of these badges have certain criteria of what it takes in order to earn them, and it's a lot of details and information. So the best way to review that is all of this is available in the help section of Upwork. If you go to that question mark, click on that into the help section, you can type in any of these badge names into search, and it'll bring up all the criteria for you. The last badge on here that I want to talk about, this expert vetted badge, I left to the end on purpose because it's actually not part of this journey. You can earn an expert vetted badge at any time, whether you're new to Upwork or whether you're a long-term Upwork user. But the name is exactly what it sounds. It means that somebody from the Upwork talent team actually reaches out to you to verify your skills, either through an interview or a skills test, and then they can give you this expert vetted badge that they have checked out your skills. So this is a pretty cool badge that gives you access to some of the really top companies on Upwork, including 30% of the Fortune 500. So right now it's only available in certain categories, and it is invitation only. So it's more just an FYI to know that it's out there, and it's just one of the many things you can do to further your career on Upwork. So a lot of information going on talent badges. The next new feature I want to talk about is the fact that you can now launch a Zoom call directly from Upwork messages. And this is a really important new feature because in order to comply with the terms of service of using Upwork, you need to keep all of your conversations with a potential client within Upwork until you actually launch a contract with that client. So if you haven't had any money exchange hands yet, you need to be keeping your conversations within Upwork. And Upwork knows that you need reliable tools in order to be communicating with clients within the platform. So that's why there's now this Zoom integration. So you can see the screenshot. It's right in the message where you're already typing back and forth with your client. Either you or the client can launch a call, and you don't need a Zoom account. It'll launch just directly from the messages window. I've used this a couple of times. It works great. So this is a huge upgrade for this year. Another new upgrade this year is actually a previous feature that used to be called pre-packaged projects, now has a new look and a new home as the project catalog. So previously, pre-packaged products would appear on your profile, and now those have been removed in favor of this new and better project catalog. So what the project catalog is it's a place where you can post a pre-scoped project that has a specific set of deliverables, a timeline, and a price attached to it. And then clients are able to browse through those and purchase that pre-packaged project. So it's a way for you to market new skills, get new exposure, and meet new clients, and really gear up projects faster for those projects that you may do frequently or that are easy to contain in a preset scope and price. Now, I know for myself, I found this a really interesting exercise to think about the skills that I have and the services that I provide and think about which ones I could package into a format like this. Again, with a set scope, a set timeline, a set cost that clients can know right away that you're the right fit to help them. So this is a place anybody can go post a project here. So it's worth checking it out and looking at how this can complement the work that you're already doing on Upwork. All right, back to the job success score we were talking about a little bit earlier. So if you've been on Upwork for a while, you're familiar with the JSS, and Upwork has heard your feedback this year. A lot of freelancers wanted more transparency into understanding what makes up their job success score and how they can influence it. So Upwork is now publishing more information on how it is calculated, and they've also made some changes to how it's calculated. So job success score is pretty simple. It is an aggregate score that reflects your work on Upwork. And the equation for how it's calculated is really straightforward. It's your successful contract outcomes, meaning the feedback that you got, minus the negative contract outcomes, so any negative feedback that may have happened, divided by the total amount of projects you've worked. And that's your job success score. Now, some of the changes that Upwork made this year is that previously, if a contract didn't have any feedback, that was counted as a negative. They've now changed that. So some of you may have noticed a bump in your score. There's also a couple of things they changed, including the threshold that it takes you to earn a job success score, and a few other details. So that's another thing. You can go into the help section, search job success score, and get more information. You can also see on this slide exactly how this score gets calculated. They run the equation every 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months, and it's an aggregate of all that time frame that is your current job success score. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more about how that's calculated and how you can make it work for you on Upwork. Next, I want to call attention to a few new Upwork skills certifications that are available. So some of you may have noticed that the previous Upwork skills certifications were removed a little while back, and that was in favor of these new and improved Upwork skills certifications. So some of these are within Upwork, others are third-party certifications, like you can see this Microsoft Certified. And right now, these are all invite-only programs. So the skill certifications are only available in two categories right now. So one is web and mobile software development, and the other is in design and creative. So if your skill set falls in either of those two categories, you may qualify for one of these new certifications. And the way you can get after that is by this link that's available on this slide right here. It is the bit.ly skill_certification. And if you go there, you can fill out the form, let Upwork know that you're interested in getting certified in one of these programs. And if you're a fit, they'll respond to you and let you know what to do next. If you're not a fit at this particular time, they'll keep your name on the list, and then they'll reach out to you if they happen to add to the program or add a certification where you're a good fit. So again, I know I'm giving you lots of details, lots of links and information. So we'll share some of this during the Q&A so you can grab these a little bit easier. But again, help section is always there for you with all of these information. All right, so here's the page I mentioned earlier where you can find the recording of this event today. This is in the Upwork community, upwork.com/community/events. So there's now a whole page dedicated to events just like this one. So you can find upcoming events. I know there happens to be one next week with one of my colleagues. He's going to be talking more about that project catalog feature. So you can join in on that one. There's also lots of webinars that are on basic Upwork skills, setting your price, building your profile, sending client communications, and that sort of thing. So there's lots of good information here, and some of it's on demand, or you can join the live ones that are coming up in the future. So this is a good page to bookmark and keep an eye on. All right, my last update for you today is about the Freelance Forward study for this year. So this came out back in September, but if you happen to miss it, here are some of the highlights of the statistics of this study. So this is a study that Upwork commissions every year. This is the 7th year that they've done it, and this year they surveyed over 6,000 freelancers to find out how people are feeling about the future of freelance work, especially in a crazy year like the one we've all just had. So really, the statistics are really promising. And the big takeaway here is that, one, freelancers are better prepared for uncertainty. So freelancers, people who were already freelancing prior to 2020, had a little bit of an advantage in being a little bit more agile. And also, looking forward, more people are planning on freelancing, both professionals, old and young. Lots of people are starting to view this as a really viable career path, which is something we've all known for a long time. So it's good to know that the future is looking bright for freelancing. And should you want to dive into all of these statistics, easiest way to find this page is to actually just Google Freelance Forward Upwork, and this link will come right up. I can also share it with you in the Q&A section at the end. So speaking of freelancers, enough of me talking. Let's get to why you're really here today, which is to hear from Julie. So let me stop sharing my screen for a second. and give you a little bit more background about Julie. So she may look familiar because she happens to be on the home page of Upwork, but Julie is an inbound marketing and sales strategist, a HubSpot enthusiast, a writer, a cat mom, and a green tea addict who currently calls Milwaukee, Wisconsin home. She's been on Upwork back since it was Odesk and got started as a freelancer in 2011. And today she uses Upwork to find new clients and hire new talent for her fully remote agency, Impressa Solutions. So she is definitely a good person to be talking to us about agencies here today. So I'll go ahead and give you the presentation rights, Julie, and you can go ahead and take it away.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. So let me get started sharing my screen. Let's see here. All right, and let me start presenting. So I'm going to have the questions box open as I'm speaking. So if y'all have any questions, I'll see them coming in. Probably not going to address them, but if for some reason you can't see something or need me to repeat something or whatever that is, say the word. So today I'm going to be talking about, as promised, 5 signs it's time to start an agency in Upwork and 3 reasons not to. So to dive right in, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm really passionate about my agency. I'm passionate about freelancing. I'm passionate about the gig economy, and I love sharing knowledge as much as I can on this topic. And to give you a little bit more background of what we're talking about, and also so I can gear what I'm talking about, I said I do have the question box open. I'd love to know who here wants to start an agency on Upwork, but hasn't yet. You're not sure if you're going to make that choice. Just give a little shout out in there so I can get an idea. So there's that group. But then I'm sure there's some folks who are like me who do have an agency on Upwork. So hopefully what I'm going to talk about today is going to be something that I think is going to be a nice balance for those of you who aren't quite there yet, and for those of you who want to get started. So to tell you a little bit about my agency, Impressa Solutions. Impressa Solutions I launched in 2012. So that is after I was already on Upwork freelancing. And Impressa Solutions is an all-remote team based in Las Vegas, which used to be home for me up until about 3 years ago. And our team members and clients are really just about everywhere. And to give you a little bit more information about Team Impressa, I won't get into the weeds about what we do, but founded in 2012. Since then, we have clients on Upwork. We've taken on over 60 clients on Upwork. Of course, we also, well, not necessarily, of course, but we also take business from other places as well. Upwork is just one source for us. On Upwork alone, we've earned almost $600,000. We also have had one contract that was a whopper. Our largest contract was one single contract that was over $350,000, lasted a little touch over 3 years. So, that's pretty decent as we were getting started out. We've also hired a bunch on Upwork. We've hired 98 separate freelancers. Most of those are with multiple contracts or on an ongoing basis. And to date, we've paid out over $150,000 to freelancers that we've hired on Upwork. So as I'm talking about this, it's obvious that Upwork is kind of a big part of our agency and is kind of really baked into our business model and what we do. So I founded my agency as a freelancer. I'm guessing that's where most of y'all are right now. So I was freelancing full time, and then it got to a point where I'm like, well, it's time to make a change. There are a few signs I started to see, and as time goes on, we work with a lot of other marketers and a lot of other folks in business services, kind of businesses. We work a lot with consultancies, and so there's a lot of other folks who are starting to go to the point where they're like, oh, okay, maybe it's time to start an agency too. And there are some signs that we see again and again. So we're going to start off with the 5 signs it's time to start an agency on Upwork, or even just otherwise. 5 signs it's time to start an agency. So to get started, sign number 1. For me, this was the big one.
Yeah, Julie, it looks like maybe the slides aren't advancing.
Did you guys get to see any of my
Yeah, we can see the deck,
slides?
but it's over.
Oh, for some reason it paused. Let me see why. Hold on, let me try to start showing.
Looks like maybe it wasn't sharing the presentation view.
It won't let me unpause it out of the present. Hold on, let me see. Sorry, guys. You'll have to.
We did test this. It worked then. Typical.
Yeah, let's see. I'm just going to share my. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see. PowerPoint. Let's do this again. So y'all can see my screen. Let's start presenting, and it pauses us right away. Sorry, guys. I do not know why this is doing that.
There it goes. It just popped to full screen.
Okay, perfect. So now we can see it. I'll start scrolling through. You missed all my brilliant slides.
Yeah.
Said welcome. By the way, these illustrations are all by Kurt, our amazing illustrator, also on Upwork. Go through, gave you all my fun stats. Here's about where I think I was. So 5 of these signs. The first one, the big one there, is I almost maxed out on work. So for me, this was the number 1 biggest sign that it was time. Oops. So for me, it was you're almost maxed out when it's almost filling whatever your maximum amount of time per week is for use. So for me, it wasn't 40 hours at the time when I was just getting started with Odesk and Upwork. That was about 35 hours a week. With other obligations and other shenanigans I had going on, there was absolutely no way I could do more than that. So that's kind of, it's like, I can't go beyond this. I need to figure something else out. Additionally, one of the big things is I wanted to make sure I had steady income. And to have steady income, you always need to find time to be able to continue to prospect and sell and bring on new clients, so that when someone drops off, you're not suddenly scrambling to figure out what to do for money. And I started realizing that previous practice I had of at least taking some time out once a week to start looking for new business was not able to happen all the time. And additionally, I was starting to feel pretty dang stressed. And as I said, this is something that we see time and time again for folks. And, this is a pretty good sign it's time. But with that, just want to warn you, don't wait too long. It gets harder and harder to start your agency and start it in a way that's going to be easy to be healthy and successful if you delay. The big thing is that 1, your work, and particularly if we're talking about Upwork, that job success score could suffer if you max yourself out, because you have to do a few additional things to start an agency. It's not the same as just rolling with your regular solo freelance business. And if you max yourself out, there is a chance that your existing clients aren't going to be quite as happy. And if that happens, if they start dropping off or start leaving you poor feedback, that's going to make it harder to start finding new clients as you launch. Additionally, you got to do a few things to set up your business properly. For example, when setting up Impressa Solutions, I had to get business licenses, I had to get a business bank account, I had to set up some bookkeeping, I got our website up and running. There are a few steps that I had to take to make sure that we are a proper, viable agency, and I was able to go out there and have all of my ducks in a row. If you are waiting to the last minute, you might not be able to get there. And then you need to be able to properly vet your new colleagues. If you're launching an agency, this means that you're not just working with you, you're going to be working with other people. And this is one I think I got a little too close to too long when we started. Some of our initial hires were amazing, wonderful people that got great work done and helped out a ton. And then some of them, not so much, but because I just needed to get butts in the seats, and I wasn't able to go through all the paces. So onwards then, sign number 2, you charge premium rates. So this one, when you're small and you're just getting started, this isn't as big of a deal, but it's become quickly a pretty dang big deal as you scale up. And the reason why premium rates are a big deal is because if you charge premium rates, you then are bringing in money that allows you to hire quality talent. As you know, a lot of times freelancing rates are based on a number of things, and I'm assuming as you're launching your agency, you probably are going to be looking towards freelancers, having people on contract to be able to fill those gaps. The more skilled someone is, the more they charge, and you want to be able to hire skilled, talented people that will serve your clients well. But you also want to be able to be profitable. So the more and more you pay people, the closer and closer that gets to the amount of revenue you're bringing in, you start eroding your profit margin. And there's other things to pay for, of course, than just their time and their talent. And so you want to make sure that you have that premium rate, because you also then are able to hire quality folks. You're able to be profitable. And at the same time, you're not going to have to raise your rates too high, because you don't want to price out your current clients. At least you don't want to do that too quickly. And the reason for this is you need their revenue coming in to make sure that your agency is able to be viable and successful as you get started, and to be able to give you the budget to start tackling the stuff that you need to do. And another reason, of course, I just want to say that this is so important with profitability, is because there's just, and I'm not a financial person, I'm a marketer and a sales strategist, but as you're looking at the premium rates, there's a certain threshold that you're going to want to meet. And what that threshold is going to vary, but I don't really know what a premium rate is for you. I'm guessing that y'all do all sorts of different things, and the kind of rates that you charge for those different things are going to vary. But I would encourage you to look at other folks on Upwork and just start figuring out if you are charging somewhere in the top 50% of folks with similar skills, similar expertise, similar everything, you're probably at least in that premium rate category. And I'm setting 50% as the threshold, so as you're scrolling through, look up folks with similar stuff. I pulled up a search for other HubSpot marketing strategists, really wanting to look for that 50% threshold, because that's kind of the minimum for a lot of business services based businesses to be able to pay out to other people while still being profitable. So if you're in the top 50%, you're like, okay, in the top 50%, you have that bottom 50% at least to start going from, so that you'll be able to pay folks and still make money. That's going to be huge for you. Ideally though, I'm assuming though, most of your bookkeepers would probably, and many, I guess more business folks you might talk to, might say that 30 or 40% is actually a sweeter spot in terms of how much you want to pay out versus what you retain. So sign 3 is you have a niche. So one of the things that I see with a lot of freelancers and a lot of folks that I talk to who want to start an agency is that they take a lot of pride in being the Jack or the Jill of all trades, that they can do a little bit of everything and they will do it and take your money for it. The problem with that, though, is the other half of this phrase is that you are the Jack of all trades and the master of none. The reality is that if you are indeed a Jack of all trades, that means that you are able to do a little this, a little bit of that, but you have no deep expertise in anything. You're not able to really shine anywhere. You're probably going to do a bunch of stuff at an intermediate level or worse. You might be learning on your client's dime. It's not a good place to come from starting your agency, because the reality is when you're for clients, you need to stand out from the competition. One way, unfortunately, a lot of folks, when they're a lot of freelancers who are starting agencies, try to stand out from the competition on price, aka undercutting everyone else. That's not the way to do it. That's a quick way, as you go in that race to the bottom, to make your agency not financially viable. You want to be able to stand out from the competition, and the best way to do that is by having specific expertise. So people also, as they find specialists in their niche, people who speak their language and know what they're going through and can work with folks just like them and have experience working with folks just like them. People, whoop, got a little scroll happy, guys. People seek these folks out and pay more. So with that in mind, though, how do you get there if you don't already have a niche? And I know that this is some concerns. This was, again, for us, we didn't niche down enough. There are many ways in which you can lean into your area of expertise. Generally speaking, what is it that you do best? What is it, the kind of businesses that you prefer to work with, that you do good working with? Maybe it's geographic areas. Maybe it's, if you're a web developer, maybe it's that you only work with certain kinds of businesses with certain CMSs. If you're a writer, maybe you only work, again, certain kinds of businesses and certain kinds of topics and certain kinds of writing. But to give you an example, we evolved a lot. When the business's name, our agency is called Impressa Solutions, because I didn't fully get niching down. Also wasn't able to charge premium rates because of that. But we were offering any kind of marketing related business service that we could churn out. Quickly evolved, and now we specialize in doing, in creating and implementing inbound marketing and sales strategies, including delivering services around HubSpot setup and content marketing and social media, and other sorts of digital marketing services for B2B tech companies, usually SaaS companies, and consultancies. These are usually business consultancies and other marketers, marketing to English-speaking markets. So, you know, that took a little bit to evolve, but having any kind of niche, even if you're like, you know what, I do social media and I only do it for these kind of businesses, or we only do web dev with WordPress, or whatever it's going to be, is going to really help you be in a good position. So if you have, once you have that niche, it's a really good sign it's time. Next one, you identify as an entrepreneur. This is a really big one, because even though, you know, the reality is that as a freelancer, you are technically an entrepreneur. Being a freelancer is a business. In many jurisdictions, you technically should have business licenses and do all of that kind of stuff. You're able to claim your expenses on your taxes and all of that kind of great stuff. But it's a different mindset. It's a very different mindset, thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur, thinking of yourself as someone who is a business leader, versus wanting to be that solopreneur, wanting to be that freelance lone wolf who doesn't have to answer to everyone, doesn't have to answer to anyone, and doesn't have, I guess, that additional weight with it. So if you are there, really good sign. But I think the reality is the biggest sign that you are ready is that you want to. If you're like, you know what, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't feel like I'm ready to start an agency. Starting an agency is scary. It feels like a lot of work. I'm really happy being a freelancer. It might not be for you. But if it's something that you want to do, getting started with an agency on Upwork is really easy. I know that, you know, as Dana was talking about all of the other various events and webinars, I know there was a great one about how to get started with an agency on Upwork. Maybe just start figuring out how to get your ducks in a row and dive in. If it's something that you want to do, or even want to try to do, it's a really good sign that it might be a good time to take the plunge. So from there, though, it's not all rainbows and unicorns and puppies and cat dresses with Santa hats. There are some things that may make you not want to go in that direction. And this is something that, you know, every now and then again, when someone's like, well, what would you have done differently? Or would you have waited? Or is there some other steps you want to take? These are the things that pop into my head. Additionally, when I've done some consulting projects or even some pre-consulting, as we're doing sales efforts to consultants who have been thinking about making this move to becoming an agency, there are some things that maybe make you take a second guess. So the big one is you may work even more. So as I mentioned, that 35-hour-a-week threshold from when I first launched Impressa Solutions, there are times that my workload immediately went up had to do a bunch of stuff to get the agency set up. After a while, everything leveled off, dropped down. Probably should have spent more time prospecting and doing some other stuff. Again, some things I could have done differently. But now we're growing. We have a lot of great stuff happening. We're taking on a ton of new business. It's shot up. So right now, unfortunately, I'm working more than I ever have. My average week is usually between 40 and 48 hours right now, as I'm getting all of our ducks in a row to take a nice big holiday break and to make sure we can onboard all these new clients and make sure that my team is set up for success. So, but that's just me. Overall though, if it's you as a freelancer, generally speaking, your responsibilities are pretty cut and dry. You might have some bookkeeping stuff, you might have some organizational things, but it's really, you find gigs, you apply to gigs, you do the work, you deliver the work, wash, rinse, and repeat. But when you start your agency, there are a few additional responsibilities you're likely to have. And I say likely because there's a few factors. So for instance, some of these are things that you may already have to do, the way you run your freelancing business. Some of these are things that, let's say, depending on how much capital you have going in, starting your agency, you might be able to farm this out, to hire this out to folks who are going to be able to handle this for you. You might be able to get that support sooner. But if you have an agency, you likely have to find and apply to more gigs than you did as just a freelancer. You also probably are still have to do client work in addition to the work for your agency that I'm about to talk about. So, even now, almost 9 years later, I'm still our lead strategist. So I have my hands in most of our client engagements to some degree. And also up until recently, I was our main account manager. So for all of our clients, I was still the one putting my eyeballs on the work my team did, and I was the one serving it up to our clients. But in addition to that, there's all that work for your agency. There's hiring, there's firing, there's all of the other random shenanigans that depending on what you do and what stage of growth you are that you need to add on. And sure, a lot of these things you can slowly offboard. So for instance, totally, we have account managers who handle the projects. We have a bookkeeper. We have all these other folks, our team members, our other marketing and branding experts do a lot of that work for us. It did increase. So if one of your main things is like, I would like that time back, you might not necessarily get it with that extra responsibility. Reason two is a hard and fast deal breaker for a lot of folks. Particularly, this is going to come the higher your premium rate is, to be really frank. We had a possible client who wanted to start an agency, and while discussing with her, she was making in the top 1% of pretty much any copywriter I've ever heard of in the English-speaking world. She was gathering really top clients, and discussing with her, this was a huge deal breaker. She was hoping to make even more money, and that just wasn't going to happen. The big reason for this is to continue to charge those premium rates for someone other than her to do the work. She needed to have a premium team. And those folks weren't charging as much as her, but they were charging pretty dang close. So she wasn't able to find people as skilled or as good unless they were charging more than 50% of what she already did. So even if she could get around that, the reality was that those clients were coming to her because of her cachet, because of her reputation, because of the excellent work. The people she was going to hire were relative strangers. They just weren't going to pay as much for anyone but her to be working on that content. So that's a big reality for a lot of folks who are charging those premium rates. Additionally, even if you're not charging those premium rates, if you make the mistake I did and start a little too soon and not raise those rates first and build that up, the margins were so small by having folks do the other work. It was more, I still had to do so much client work to continue to make money, and everything else was just, it felt like pocket change after a while. Just wasn't there yet. Additionally, the big thing is that there are other expenses beyond paying your team. This wasn't it for year one of my agency, but for us, there's a lot of other tools and things we need to invest in. We do have to pay for A lot of like subscriptions to tools we use. I think we pay over $2,000 a month in the various tools that we need for running marketing services for our clients and doing reporting and doing research. There's merchant fees. There's the holiday cards we just printed and sent out to our clients. So there's all these other expenses that end up going in. And unless you really are careful setting up and budget appropriately, you might not be making more. And the big one ties into reason 2 is sometimes it can be really hard to find good help. If I have to, over the course of all of the time, all of the history of Team Impressa, my number one biggest pain point is hiring, firing, onboarding, and scaling up the right team. That has been the hardest one for me, because hiring the wrong person can be expensive. And we're not just talking about that financial cost that could eat away at your bottom line. It takes up opportunity costs, because then you're spending time spinning your wheels on other things. Your team might be spinning their wheels on other things. Your clients might end up unhappy and going to do something else, because sometimes the team boffs it. Sometimes work needs to be redone. Sometimes work ends up being done inefficiently, and there's project bloat that you cannot pass on to your client because that's not their fault. Sometimes work isn't done on schedule, or it's not done at all. Time and wage theft does happen, which super stinks. Bad attitudes can seep in and bring everyone down. And it's just really just about anything that you can imagine. If you have the wrong people on your team, could go wrong. It's a big hassle. And of course, finding the right fit can take time. So if you're like, I'm gonna start my agency and we're gonna onboard a bunch of clients, well, guess what? If you need help right now, you might not find the right help until later. When you're vetting people and don't wanna just get butts in the seats, you wanna get the right butts in the seats, it takes time. And ideal applicants, especially if you need someone with some particular expertise and specialization, they might not always be available when you need them. And additionally, even when you find the right folks, some folks don't work out. We recently were looking for a new account management assistant. We thought we found someone wonderful. Her family situation had a big sudden change, and 2 weeks into training her, she had to go. It happens, but we were back to square one trying to find a new person for that role. So this is something, big consideration, hiring and getting those right people. If you want to do that, go into an agency, really think about that, because getting the right talent to help you out, huge consideration. So this is the one I get asked all the time. If we could go back in time, would you do it again? The answer is yes. The answer is a big resounding yes. I've had amazing opportunities come my way that if I would have stayed freelancing, would not have happened. There's some gigs like that huge contract I talked about, never in a million years would have happened if I was just a freelancer. It would never have gotten to that scale. There's no way I could have satisfied the work that was needed. Additionally, was able to meet some amazing people and learn things and get to be able to take on opportunities that I would not have gotten based on where my resume was at when I was freelancing back in 2011. No one would have hired me for a role like I've gotten to fill now. So it's been absolutely amazing. Yeah, there's some things I would have done differently. There are some things that I would go back and change for certain, but I totally would do it again. So that's it. That is all of my rambling about the 5 signs it might be time to start your agency on Upwork and some things that might make you second guess it. If you want to check me out on Upwork or my agency, you can follow me on Twitter. And also, if y'all need a really rad illustrator, Kurt Rojas is responsible for all of the attractive visuals in my deck. So that is it. I'm going to stop talking. I guess I think it might be time for questions. Dana?
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. Yeah, for sharing all that information. So yeah, we did have a couple of good questions coming in. And one of the first ones, and I have some personal curiosity here as well, is what does your current split look like between the agency management work and business development work versus actually working on client projects? Because I know your workload shifts a lot when you start an agency.
Yeah, no, so the amount of time where I spend where, it varies a lot. So as one of the biggest trends and the biggest changes is more and more of my time is being spent on our agency development, on business development, on training the right people, and doing and overseeing our own sales and marketing efforts. So that's something that's going to be a kind of a big change, and that's going to be moving into next year. That's going to be about 75% of what I do. We're training up our team so that we're able to have someone else step into more of that strategy role. So I'll still oversee things and really be hands-on with some of the clients that need a higher touch or need more expert level work. Really want to, kind of get to the point to stay out of it. But right now, in any given week, a lot of times it ends up pretty close to 50-50. There always ends up being something bubbling up that I need to hop in on, and like, yeah, sure, I can finish editing this report, or I guess I can post these tweets, like all like it's just really random stuff. But that's what happens sometimes. You have to roll up your sleeves and get in the kitchen.
Yeah, definitely. And then also, it looks like there's a couple of questions wanting to know more about your agency talent. So how do you engage people to work with you? How do you find them? Do you have full-timers versus kind of a bench of talent? What does Impressa look like?
Yeah, so our all remote team really heavily relying on people on contracts. So that means both freelancers that we hire directly from Upwork and also people that we meet directly on referrals that are located all around the world that are essentially also freelancers. It really helps to give everyone a lot of flexibility in what they do. And a lot of the people we work with, I don't want to say have side projects, but they have other passions. They have other things going on other than just Impressa Solutions 100% of the time. We might have them from anywhere between 20 to 75 or 80% of the time, but it gives them some nice room to kind of pursue other interests and activities. But we do have some folks who are on contract full time that we retain on an annual basis. So yeah, but heavily on contract, and we do hire a lot via Upwork.
Yeah, I guess, and that's one of the big questions that I've seen come in here, but I've also heard at other events too, was, how can I join an agency on Upwork if I'm interested in working for another agency? Any tips in that capacity?
Well, that's a really good question. There are a lot of folks, and I know at least for myself, when we're prospecting on Upwork and looking through some of the available job listings, there are some folks that call themselves out as being an agency. So there's a pretty good shot if someone is an agency and they're looking for web dev or a social media manager or a VA, et cetera, that they're an agency and they probably are looking in some capacity to bring you on board to work with them. I know for us, I'm our main, I don't want to get all into sales terms, but I do a lot of it. So I'm like our main hunter. I'm the one who goes out and looks for the business. So we don't have a lot of our team, our team isn't on the profile because they're not the ones going for gigs. And we also don't do hourly assignments. So they just kind of chill out in the background. But I would say using agency as a modifier for your job search is going to give you a good chance of finding people that are looking at that capacity. And if they aren't an agency, see if they're willing to bring you on board like that.
Yeah, great tip. And then there was also a question in here that I'm not sure if you can speak to this one, but there was a couple of people asking about having an in-person agency that they then want to bring to Upwork, and if that's something that you would recommend, or if you had any experience there.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Because Impressa Solutions, while we founded it, and got started on Upwork right away, our initial clients weren't just coming from Upwork. So I founded an agency. At the time, you couldn't actually, it was weird. You had to run your agency to your personal profile. It was all very bizarre. Got it sorted out. There's been a lot of product developments, by the way, y'all, since 2011. But, you know, definitely recommend it, because essentially if you already have your brick and mortar agency out there, really all you need to do is set up that profile. And that's pretty much it. And just start using that to start prospecting. I would recommend that whomever you have in, depending on what you do, whoever you have currently in your sales or biz dev role is probably the first few people that you want to have as a profile. You know, the people that you want to have personal profiles applying to things for your agency, to have them get out there. But as you can build up your talent pool, like having folks, you know, who are specialists, you know, get them in there. But I definitely recommend using Upwork then, if you have an existing agency, as another source for finding business.
Yeah, and I saw a question that just came in from Zachary asking if Upwork allows you to have a freelancer and an agency profile. And the answer to that is yes. And actually, it's necessary for you to have a freelancer profile before you can start the agency profile. So you can do both. One question, again, that I've heard before, and I've kind of seen it reflected in the question box here, is there tends to be a perception that most clients on Upwork don't want to work with an agency, that they're looking for freelancers. So in your experience, how do you identify those projects where the client's more receptive to an agency or might be looking for an agency?
Well, it's larger projects. If someone's like, I need a blog post written, they don't want an agency. They want one person to turn out a blog post. Or if they need a couple tweaks to their website, or they're like, can you check my code? They want a person, an individual person, one. But the reality is there's a lot of folks that don't on Upwork that don't know they need an agency. There's tons of people that we have engaged with and taken on as clients, because we look at their listing and they say something like this. We need a social media strategist. And then you read their listing. They also need someone to manage their social media on a daily basis. They need someone to set up their MailChimp account. They also need someone to write their blog on an ongoing basis. And while they're at it, they need someone who can make them graphics and edit a video. And you look at this, and this is in one listing, and you start seeing this stuff, and you're like, okay, this is great. I understand that you need this, and I understand that this is maybe under 40 hours of work per week. But the reality is, one human being is not going to have all of these expert level skills. And if you do find someone who is a unicorn and does, they're going to charge you whatever the top rate is for the highest thing they do. And then you're going to be paying someone for the VA work you've shoved in there for what they charge for doing 3D animation. So it's really, you start looking for these that are larger projects, larger dollar amounts, things that are going to be towards like the higher level, or the higher difficulty level of the things that you do. Yeah, big projects, big difficulty level, looking for things that cross various skill sets or months of time that no one person can do. Also, I see a lot of folks that are looking for a lot of, like, they want a lot of dev work done fast. Well, guess what? No one has 120 hours per week to work on your last minute website. You need a team. So those are the ones to start looking for. There are a lot of people, though, that are resistant to working with an agency, because they do feel that means, of course, there's going to be some overhead that's passed on to them. Those are, generally speaking, I'm going to say folks that are a little bit more price sensitive, that they're looking to save money wherever they can. And they also, then, because they're price sensitive, the other big advantage to working with an agency is the agency is managing all of these various people that need to work under them. These folks are price sensitive, and they generally then are fine hiring the 10 different freelancers it takes and then managing all of them and all of the headaches that brings, as opposed to working with that agency. So it just really, some come in a consultative way. Some people will get it and be like, you're right, this is the work for 20 people. And some will be like, no, I'm going to keep finding that unicorn.
I've had that unicorn conversation more times than I like to count. People think there's that one magical person that's going to fulfill all their needs, and that's not usually the case. All right, I'm just going through some of our recent questions here. Ooh, good one from Liam. Do you have any recommended reading on improving sales and proposal skills?
I would say there's tons of things one could read. As a big HubSpot enthusiast, I spend a lot of time in HubSpot Academy, which is absolutely free for most of their learning resources. And they have a lot of great things around inbound sales, sales enablement, client onboarding, and there's some others. I think some of these, I might be blurring the lines a little bit about what's openly available to everyone and what's available to only agency partners, but I can give you, I know at least half of those I just rattled off are free and open. These are amazing resources, and even for us, some of them have been game changing. There's been things in there that it's like, oh, we should do that thing. Otherwise, yeah, I would say skip the reading. Watch the videos, do the corresponding reading, but that's going to be, I think, the quickest way to level yourself up. And these are things that can be applicable both to outside prospecting and outside sales efforts, and directly what you're doing with Upwork, bringing that more consultative approach when you're responding to inquiries and requests for interviews and proposals.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's huge, is the understanding that a client hiring on Upwork might not know exactly what they need or exactly how it needs to get done. So that is a big role. Freelancer or agency is that little bit of client education on why you're the best fit, why they need a team, all of those pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time for our webinar here today. I want to go ahead and make sure that I share some of these links from the earlier section on the Upwork features. So here's the information on the skills certifications and that link where you can go to try and apply for some of those. So I'll share those with you in the chat box there. And then I already shared the link for where you can find the recording of this event. Had a couple of questions of people who had to step away for a minute. So this will be recorded and posted in the community for you to go back and reference. And I think that was, oh, my last one was the freelance forward report. I have that link for you as well. I can share that here. And let's see, we have another minute or two and see if there's any other last minute questions to address. Was there any you saw in there, Julie? I know it's hard to talk and read at the same time.
I mean, I can answer quick ones. Doug, regarding HubSpot. We started with HubSpot too soon. It's an excellent tool for sales and marketing, but we spent the first year paying $800 per month and not actually using the tool. Make sure, don't jump in until you have the team or the resources or the money to pay for the resources to leverage it. There is SharpSpring, which is a lot cheaper, not as user-friendly. And there's also even a lot of these things within MailChimp. Still, regardless of what you use, keep tapping away at the HubSpot Academy, though, because it's really awesome. Can you talk? So I see about Ken, I talk about the first project. There wasn't really a project that I switched. It was all of them. It was like, I am working with y'all and I can't keep doing this anymore like this. So it was, really kind of told everyone that we would be transitioning. Pretty much everyone was cool with it. It's really just transparency. We have had, as a quick aside, freelancers we've hired who suddenly turned into an agency and didn't tell us. That was not transparent and not cool, and we dropped them. So just a quick note for you.
Yeah. And I think a good way to wrap up today too would be to let everybody know that there is, you referenced this earlier, but there is a webinar that is specifically on kind of the nuts and bolts of exactly how you start an agency account, what features you get with that agency account, how you manage people, how you pay people, all of those sort of specific information is available on an Upwork webinar, and it is on that community events page. So if you go look there now, I believe there may even be a recording that you can access right away. If not, there'll be another scheduled one coming up soon that gives you all of those details, because there is quite a few back-end features that come with having an agency on Upwork and being able to move talent around and that sort of thing. So with that, that was our time for today. So thank you everybody for joining us and your time and attention. And thank you so much, Julie, with sharing all of your experience with us.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Absolutely happy to be here. Happy holidays, y'all.